Tommy Boy is an all-time classic, starring the late great Chris Farley and Joe Dirt's own David Spade. This movie stands the age of time and is no way flawed. It's like it was made for the whole family. Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, that weird uncle you may have seen only during the holidays. Its appeal is massive and shows the story of a man who risks everything to save his dad's company from his new stepmom and stepbrother. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's because Tommy Boy is Hamlet, but better. Shakespeare's work has been known to stand the test of time, and is still read and talked about today. Truly a perspective to show how great Shakespeare was. But can something so great be improved on? Yes. Yes, it can. Hamlet follows the story of, Hamlet. Hamlet is a man on a mission to avenge his father's death at the hands of his uncle Claudius, who has now been married to his widow mother. Talk about keeping in the family. Am I right? But seriously, this is considered Shakespeare's best work, and its philosophical monologues and themes keeps people talking about it today. And having experience with a high school level course on Shakespeare, I personally feel enlightened and experienced enough to even make such a bold claim. First off, Tommy's Hamlet. I mean, both their names are in the titles. And Tommy and Hamlet do have things in common, though. Both study at respective universities, with Hamlet studying at the University of Wittenberg, and Tommy studying at Marquette University, the alma mater to Chris Farley himself. Both dads are massive driving forces in their respective kingdoms, with Hamlet's father, King Hamlet, being, king of Denmark, and Tommy's father being the owner of the town's local factory and company of Callahan Auto Parts, placed in Ohio. Both are heirs to these kingdoms, as Hamlet is the Prince of Denmark, and Tommy is, Tommy, but he gets a job with his dad's company. When both their dads die, so much stuff is forced upon them. Hamlet has the Kingdom of Denmark, who is now under the rule by his uncle Claudius and his new wife, Hamlet's mother, Gertrude. Tommy's company is now owned by his new mother, Beverly, and his stepbrother, played by the man himself, Rob Lowe, named Paul. Now the parallels here is that Gertrude is Beverly and Paul, is King Claudius. It changed to show that Beverly and Paul are mother and son, but lovers. This marks the two on their adventure for revenge and to try to save their respective kingdoms. Hamlet with Denmark, and Tommy to save the company and its factory, that for some reason apparently employs the whole town. And obviously, no man would be complete without their sidekick, Hamlet being his friend Horatio, and Tommy's being Richard, a childhood friend and one of his dad's employees, who was constantly at odds with Tommy. Oh yeah, there's also Ophelia. She kind of likes Hamlet, but then he's like, I don't like you, go to a nunnery or something, and then she drowns. Tommy's love interest, Michelle, is like Ophelia, except the whole I don't like you and drowning thing. Zelensky's also there. He's the owner of Zelensky's Auto Parts, and he basically wants to buy the company from Tommy. His Hamlet counterpart is Fortinbras, except he's trying to take over Denmark, because Hamlet's dad killed his dad, and yeah, Zelensky's him. However, these parallels are uncanny, and help bring Tommy Boy to the standard of all-time classics, in with Shakespeare's own work. I mean, look at Lion King. That's basically Hamlet with just a bunch of webkins in place of characters. And that movie's awesome. But Tommy Boy is even more awesomer, if that's even a word.
Holy shnikes.
Hamlet's journey and Tommy's journey aren't exactly the same. I mean, Hamlet's got a lot more deaths, monologues, philosophical views on death and one's own sanity, than Tommy Boy has this.
This song sucks.
Talk about lame.
Totally. You can change it if you want.
I don't care, it's up to you.
I can live with it if you can.
Suit yourself.
Don't you remember you told me you loved me, baby? You said you'd be coming back this way again, baby. Baby, 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 oh baby, I love you.
Hamlet's plan is to get revenge for his father by killing his uncle, and Tommy's to save his father's company from being bought out. And this is where Tommy Boy strives and Hamlet does it. It's a road trip movie. Tommy has put everything on the line. His house, his shares of the company, to the bank to receive the loan to make his father's dream production of Callahan brake pads. Tommy has to sell 500,000 of these cross-country to save his family-owned business and then the town. Both Tommy and Hamlet come in conflict with themselves throughout their adventure. Hamlet is cautious of his actions of revenge, not knowing his true feelings on how to take out revenge. There may be a devil or something involved. He is also pretending to go mad. Whether this is true or not remains unsaid, but it's a focal point of the story. But Tommy's anxiety and pressure to sell causes him to lose clients, even setting fire to one of the client's model cars on his desk in a very funny way. I mean, the humor of these adventures brings laughter and joy. It's something that Hamlet doesn't. I mean, Richard's 1967 Plymouth GTX is constantly being beaten and destroyed, and it only gets funnier. Also to mention, the diner scene is just great in every aspect or whatnot. One of my favorite scenes is from this movie, and it's just so funny.
Helen.
That's nice. You look like a Helen.
Helen, we're both in sales.
Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman. Let's say I go into some guy's office. Let's say he's even remotely interested in buying something. Well, then I get all excited. I'm like, Jojo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet. The pet is my possible sale. Oh, my pretty little pet. I love you. So I stroke it, and I pet it, and I massage it. Yeah, I love it. I love my little naughty pet. You're naughty. And then I take my naughty pet, and I go... Oh! I killed it! I killed my sale! That's when I blow it.
Like in any good story, characters need to have a turning point. And Hamlet's is after the death of Polonius. Thinking it was his uncle, but instead, Ophelia's dad. So yeah, maybe they weren't good together after all. Hamlet's then sent away, and then comes back, not really caring about the revenge of his father. However, his concerns over death are still in play, and questions the meaning and purpose of death, while also contemplating his very own. This theme is great for reading and viewing, but it's also really, really depressing. Tommy's turning point is in the diner, where he's able to talk to the ever-so-nice waitress to get him some wings. Richard discovers Tommy's ability to read, and then he just starts selling brake pads. As with any good story, conflict's gotta happen. You need your Darth Vader or your Luke Skywalker. It's the only way to get good stuff out of this. And Hamlet's is Claudius and Laertes. Laertes is Polonius' son, who wants to kill Hamlet now, too. So him and Claudius plan to kill Hamlet with a fencing duel and using poison. And by poison, I mean there's like a lot of poison. Like, just so much poison. Like, Claudius has poison for Hamlet to drink. Hamlet's poked with a poison sword. Then Laertes is poked with the same sword. Hamlet's mother drinks the poison meant for him. Like, just so much poison. Then Laertes finds inner resolve with himself. And then just, like, tells Hamlet, like, hey, your uncle's trying to kill you, and, do that. Then he dies. Then Hamlet just goes AWOL and kills his uncle. Then Hamlet's dying, and then Horatio, man, mind you, the only surviving man in this whole play, is told to tell his story, and that Fortinbras is now the new king. Then he dies, unresolved of himself, but only for his story to be told. Now, Tommy Boy's conflict is way better than Hamlet's. Has less death, less poison, and more laughs. So Tommy's selling these brake pads like crazy, and it's going so well. But Paul and Beverly got different plans. Their whole plot was to marry Tommy's dad and wait till he died so they could sell. But now it's in full effect, the company can be sold much quicker. But Tommy's progress is going to ruin that. So Paul is able to get into the computer systems and sabotage the sales, causing the bank to foreclose on the assets. Tommy then gets this crazy idea to fly to Chicago and to convince Zelensky to buy the brake pads, stop the company from being bought, and save the business. After some hijinks, Tommy is able to sell the brake pads to Zelensky, and Paul and Beverly are arrested, bringing up Paul's warrant for arrest. And since the two were married, her marriage to Tommy's dad doesn't count, and Tommy is the actual heir to the company. He has the order deal of the brake pads and stops the company from being sold, saving his dad's company, and becomes the president of Callahan Auto Parts. He gives an outstanding and beautiful speech to his employees, and his last scene on his dinghy, talking to his father, asking some help with the wind to get to shore and see Beverly and her family at dinner on time. It ends on an endearing note as the wind begins to pick up, and Tommy will be able to see Beverly. And then it concludes with a beautiful and telling story of a man continuing the legacy of his father as he's been able to prove himself and reach resolution. Now you're probably wondering what's this got to do with Hamlet and Tommy Boy. Well, it's about the resolution. With both these things having such similar parallels, they diverge in a certain aspect, and that's the tone and resolution. Resolution doesn't happen with Hamlet. Hamlet can be dark and sad with its themes of death, and Tommy Boy's quite the opposite. Instead of embracing death, Tommy uses it to fuel himself and make him a better man out of it. Hamlet dwells on this, and eventually leads to his own death. The resolution of Tommy Boy is much more relatable, as anyone could relate with the bumbling, personality-filled Tommy or even the sarcastic Richard. There's an ending, and everyone loves a good, happy ending. Hamlet's just sad, and no one likes a sad ending. Resolution is an important part of any form of story, movie, play, anything. And some may say that Hamlet's inability of resolution is what makes it great. And for some, yeah. But Tommy Boy's resolution leaves you with a mixture of emotions, from sad to happy, anxiety-filled, and then relief, as you see everything worked out for the better. Tommy Boy just excels in everything Hamlet doesn't. From the heart, the laughs, the acting, the characters, all very complex, understandable, and relatable. And despite Shakespeare's work standing the test of time, you may want to add Tommy Boy in that list as well. Because, well, Tommy Boy's Hamlet, but better. But hey, that's my opinion. It could be subjective. I mean, it's not like I have a bias or anything. I just really like Tommy Boy.
Oh man, that's cold! I'm a maniac on the floor, and I'm dancing like I've never danced before.